Good morning. It's great to be with the coalition of concerned Republicans here on restoring our American Republic. What an interesting time it is. And the last couple of days have been particularly politically charged. I'm here with my good friend and colleague, Chuck Benoit. Let's bring Chuck on the screen so we can get our conversation started this morning.
Good morning, Mike.
Morning, Chuck. How's it going?
Pretty good.
Alrighty then. So, Chuck, why don't you cover the title of our broadcast today?
Okay. Well, we have a couple of titles there, but we started out with political strategies, and then we ended up with, I think, Florida CD11 candidates apply pathways to victory strategies.
That's exactly right. Read it one more time, Chuck.
Florida CD11 candidates apply pathway to victory strategies.
Exactly. So just for the benefit of the audience, what we're going to do today is we're going to run through, particularly in the CD11 race, Congressional District 11 race, we're finding that to be quite fascinating. And it is also almost equally as interesting that the CD6 race is not particularly interesting. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I'll just take you out. In real estate, there's a famous real estate trainer who teaches real estate agents that in order to win listings on listing appointments, you take your customer out onto a safe island. And what that means is you go over what you're going to talk about during the appointment in the beginning of the appointment so that your prospective customer is very comfortable with the subject matter as we work through it. So, Chuck, let's why don't you take the audience out onto a safe island and let them know what we're going to be talking about over the next 25 or 30 minutes.
Well, I guess simply stated, each of the four candidates for CD11 seem to have their own little strategy as to how they're going to take the primary election. And I guess hopefully after winning that, the election in November. They all have a bit different, a little similar, but definitely different perspectives and different groups that seem to be supporting them. And it does seem like there may be a couple that have a little bit of a head start, if you will, toward this idea of coalition building.
Okay, well, let me open the conversation, Chuck, by saying that Congressman Webster announced on April 28th, that he wasn't running for re-election. So basically, between the day that Congressman Webster announced that he wasn't running and the end of the qualifying deadline, which was July the 12th, is 45 days, okay? So that really is the key component that kicks off all other strategy decisions. Can you agree with that?
Yeah, it does kind of limit the amount of time anyone could possibly get some momentum going, and may kind of sway things toward the establishment's candidate. And the question is, which one is that?
Well, right. So basically, without taking too much time on this subject, Chuck, basically the Webster camp would like to be able to choose Daniel Webster's successor. Okay. And then I guess we can go through that. And, originally the buzz on the street was that Lake County Sheriff Peyton Grinnell was offered the job. Okay. Isn't that interesting that a congressman would literally offer, which happens, unfortunately, we'll get into it today, I'm sure we will. Sadly, that's the norm, not the exception, that everybody, and in other episodes, we will talk more about the handoff of political office from one elected official to their selected successor, which is the norm, ladies and gentlemen, not the exception. The idea that voters actually choose their elected officials is a myth, pure myth. That's just absolutely not true. We'll get into it today. But so that's what happened there. So Peyton Grinnell basically said he didn't want the job. And then I've heard, so long story short, Carey Baker wound up being the one who was approved to be the successor to Dan Webster. And that's where we are. Okay. So now you can get into, okay, well, that's a big benefit for, although it's also interesting that I haven't seen an actual endorsement from Daniel Webster.
Yeah, for anybody, right?
Yeah, I haven't seen Daniel Webster endorsed in this race. So keep in mind, Senator Dennis Baxley has endorsed in the race. Senator Dennis Baxley endorsed Carey Baker. So why wouldn't Daniel Webster endorse Carey Baker today? And there's a reason for that. Although I don't know the reason, but, as a, just like I guess we all want to speculate on things like that. I mean, if I gave you my opinion on why that is, then that would be pure speculation. But but I will tell you that I am comfortable going out and saying that the legislative delegation from Lake County supporting of Joe Strada probably has something to do with the reason that Dan Webster is not willing or has not chosen to endorse in the CD11 race. I'm saying to you that Dennis Baxley has endorsed Carey Baker, but he also has strong alliances with David Jordan and, of course, Keith Truenow, who was chosen to succeed Dennis Baxley in the Florida Senate. So I'm saying that probably has something to do with it. Webster has deep alliances with Baker and with Dennis Baxley, and of course, by extension, David Jordan, his people. Keep in mind that this organization that was once called Lake 100, my understanding is it's now called Connect 100, and Joe Strada comes out of Connect 100. So there's alliances there. So maybe Dan Webster is withholding an endorsement because he doesn't want to ruffle the feathers of people on the other side of Carey Baker, which effectively the icon for the opposition to Carey Baker is Joe Strada, Chuck.
There you go.
Any comments there?
Well, I mean, I'm following you, and you have a far larger history in Lake County than I do, and but it does make sense. A lot of things make sense when you take into consideration who these people are supporting and who have clearly kind of made enemies, if you will, in Lake County. Politics.
And I want to say something about that, Chuck, because it's really sad because here we are doing this broadcast, and it's almost impossible really to get into this and not make enemies. And unfortunately, when you got 4 candidates in a race, if you endorse one of the candidates, you might have made a friend with the guy you endorsed, but you probably made an enemy of the other 3, and that's how. In my view, I think that we as Republicans should embrace competition, and we shouldn't hate our opponents, and we shouldn't hold the grudge against people who support people that don't, who support people other than us. But unfortunately, that's just not the lay of the land. And these grudges run deep, and they are long-lived, Chuck. So let's consider this little discussion that we are now concluding as the preamble to getting into the context of our talk today. So why don't you kick us off on the analysis of the strategies of these candidates, Chuck?
Okay, well, it does seem like each candidate has a group that they're kind of in with, or at least supporting them in some degree. So let's start off with Dr. Nizam Razak. he hired Lou Marin, who was the chairman of the Florida Republican Assembly. I'm not sure if he still is. I was under the impression that because he did that, they wanted to throw him out.
He is. He's still the
still
state
there, huh?
president.
Okay.
Yeah, he's still there.
Okay. Well, I guess Razak's understanding is that Lou Marin would bring the Lake County and the Sumter County Florida Republican Assembly groups on board with his campaign, and would deliver him a door-to-door canvassing group, that may or may not be the case, right?
Well, again, look at the strategy there, right? So you've got Lou Marin, who's the state president of the Florida Republican Assembly, who also happens to be the chairman of the Orange County chapter of the Republican Assembly, which, of course, this District 11 includes a portion of Southwest Orange County. So that makes Lou, as the chairman of the Orange County Republican Assembly, a player. Well, he's a player all across the state, but this is in his exact.
Mike, you froze on me here. I don't know what to do.
Well, Chuck, I don't think that's on my side. I
Yep.
don't think there's anything I can do about that.
Yeah.
So let's just.
Okay,
What
you're
we're going to do
back.
is we're going to muscle through it. Right.
You're back.
So that's just a download speed, bottom line. That's just
Yeah, that's fine.
bandwidth problem. So at any rate, Lou, without consulting anyone, just exerted his influence over the Lake County Republican Assembly and the Sumter County Republican Assembly without their consent, and went to work for as the official compensated campaign manager for this candidate without discussing with the Florida Republican Assembly at all. And the candidate that he chose to be the campaign manager for is antithetical to the political profile of a candidate that the presidents and the members of the Lake County Republican Assembly and the Sumter County Republican Assembly can support. So I'm going to write that off as a tactical error that's going to do actually, it'll be a negative for Nizam Razak, not a positive. I mean, it would have given him other options, but now he's actually, the people that he thought were going to come online with him are actually going to oppose him because they really don't like the way this was done, and they are genuinely antithetical to the profile of this particular candidate, Chuck. So there's a swing and a miss, I would suggest, on the campaign for Dr. Nizam Razak, Chuck.
There you go. Well, now, it's very, very uncomfortable to begin to talk about some of these issues about Razak, but the reality is that, first of all, he is foreign-born, which in and of itself is no big deal, but he's a Muslim. And we all know that Islam is not so much a religion as it is a political, a government structure. And what we're seeing in some cities, and especially in New York City, is this massive change in the Democrat Party trying to turn the Democrat Party into a communist party. And Islam, Muslims are, quite frankly, a strong part of all of that. So the idea that the FRA, which touts themselves as a Judeo-Christian valued organization, would get behind a devout Muslim, not because of a religious thing, but of a clearly political thing. Islam and the American Constitution are diametrically opposed. They cannot exist together. So it seems to me like that was a real misstep with, from Lou Marin.
I couldn't agree more, Chuck, but I do have to take issue with one thing you said. You said we all know, right?
Sorry.
And I'm going to challenge you there because I think that the vast majority of people in America do not know. And, you know, we can debate that all day long,
Sure,
but I just
yeah.
want you to know that I am personally opposed to the Islamification of America. And anyway,
go. Yeah.
you know, so
Myself
anyway,
as
this
well.
guy sits on some, you know, Islamic boards and stuff. So he is definitely taking an active role in supporting the Islamic community in Central Florida. I think that's a problem. I think Lou Marin knew it. There's no way in the world Lou Marin did not know that
Yeah.
when he took the job. I mean, otherwise, you know, he was given the opportunity to resign from the campaign, and we could have, you know, I'm not a member of the Florida Republican Assembly, but the Florida Republican Assembly could have put this in the rearview mirror and moved on if Lou Marin was willing to resign from the campaign, but he isn't. So
Well,
that's causing a big rift in the Republican Assembly right now.
Yeah, let's move
So
on.
that's that.
Let's
Yeah,
move
let's
on.
move
To,
on, yeah.
to Tim Wilkins. Now, Tim Wilkins is interesting, and he actually has my attention. But what he's kind of trying to do is leverage the political divide between the David Jordan wing of Lake County Government Organization and the Carey Baker wing of Lake County political establishment. We all know, I'm sorry, we may not all know that
No, we don't all know, Chuck.
that
A few of us know. A few of us know. Everyone else does not know.
Right. The Jordans kind of did Carey Baker very, very dirty in stealing his position as county appraiser, and so there's no love in that camp. But now, how do you feel Tim Wilkins can do about that? I mean, what is it that he's really trying to do?
Well, first of all, I don't have the exact numbers, but I'm going to say to you that 50% of the vote in this election is going to come from Lake County. So Lake County is a major jewel in this election. You know, you could argue that you could argue, although with there's 5 candidates in this race. There's another candidate that we don't talk about because we have seen nothing from her. But there is another Republican in this race. But we're not going to talk about that. So, you know, Wilkins has just very astutely pointed out that there's a divide. I mean, basically, let's just frame it like this. Before the 2024 primary, when David Jordan propped up his brother Mark and went in at the very last minute and snatched the property appraiser job out of Carey Baker's mouth, Carey Baker and David Jordan, that whole entourage would have been on the same team, right? So then again, you'd see Daniel Webster endorsing in this race. You'd see Dennis Baxley probably playing a much larger role than he's playing right now. And you'd see probably even Connect 100 would be united around who the candidate was going to be and all that. But because that happened, and again, I think that Carey Baker basically was asked in 2024 to do certain things on behalf of the legislative delegation that we have in place now that Carey didn't want to do. And even Dennis Baxley was saying in 2024 that he wasn't endorsing in Florida House races and stuff like that, and they weren't going to get involved. But, of course, Dennis Baxley went back on his promise at the end and endorsed, and Carey Baker didn't. So you got to give Carey credit. You know, he stood his ground. For whatever reason, I don't know what Carey Baker's rationale for not endorsing in 2024 is, but for whatever reason, he chose not to do that, and I give him credit. He stood his ground, and this is the backlash that he's getting. So from Tim Wilkins' point of view, he's just accurately acknowledging that the establishment elected officials in Lake County are split between the legislative delegation that represents Lake County and the Carey Baker wing of the party, because we have that body, which once was united, is now split. And the interesting part of that is both sides, the I like to refer to them as the David Jordan wing of the party, and the Carey Baker wing both have major constituencies. You and I see that play out at our Republican Executive Committee meetings every month, Chuck. So I would suggest even at the REC, Republican Executive Committee, the number of members is higher than it typically is because a lot of people are involved in this because they've been recruited to get involved. But the membership is kind of split down the middle. I don't think either, there is obviously one side has a stronger membership roster than the other, but it's pretty evenly split, to be honest, right? So I think that would be a pretty good analogy to figure out, where the votes are between the Jordan wing of the party and the Carey Baker wing of the party. And then we can get into it when we get into talk about Carey Baker's strategy. We'll get more deeply into what I'm referring to right here, Chuck.
Yeah. So let's just finish up with Tim Wilkins because our time just keeps flying by, Mike. It appears that he's really looking for more of a grassroots coalition. He's going to want to get the Florida Republican Assembly in Lake County and Sumter County to support him, and so his little coalition is going to be more of a grassroots coalition. Do we agree on that?
We agree that is his strategy. Okay, his strategy is to attract the grassroots organizations. I'm sure he's pursuing the Republican Liberty Caucus and others as well. But I think you'll hear from the Florida Republican Assembly probably today as far as what they've decided to do in this congressional district race, which is very important to the leadership of the Lake and Sumter County chapters of the Florida Republican Assembly, Chuck. So that's, in summary, right, that's Tim Wilkins' strategy. He's saying he's going to basically benefit from the split between the establishment elected officials here in Lake County, and he's going to take advantage of that separation of those votes, Chuck.
So let's move into Carey Baker, and we feel that he's going to apply the Lake County establishment campaign strategy to get the endorsement of as many elected officials as possible. The elected official endorsements move votes in blocks and bring the support of spheres of influence that always vote. And you mentioned here that this strategy capitalizes on a low turnout election. Now, when you say particular elected officials, you're talking about city and county officials?
Anybody that's elected has proven that they can get more votes than the competition. So when people walk into a voting booth and they know that a city councilman from their town has endorsed a particular candidate and they voted for that city council person, if they don't have a lot of information about the race, which in this particular race, voters do not have a lot of information. I mean, as I'm out and about, I find people are very confused about who's who and what's what and what are the characteristics of each one of these candidates and all that. They're very confused about it. So if they know that they have some kind of even a distant relationship with a city council member, and that particular city council member they voted for, and the council member endorses a candidate, there's a good chance that the voter will follow suit and vote for the candidate that they know their city council member has endorsed. Chuck, does that make sense to you?
It certainly does, and I don't know, it could be a winning strategy. So we talked a lot about Carey Baker all throughout our time here, so let's just move to the final candidate we're going to discuss today. And
I just want to make one more point before we move on, right? And that's exactly how Taylor Yarkowski got voted into office in 2022. He never talked to a voter. He just went out and got endorsed by as many elected officials as he could. And I was on a teletown hall meeting on a Saturday morning when I was the only one on the call. And I wasn't going to ask any questions, but since I was the only one on the call, I asked the question, hey, how come you haven't talked to voters up until now? And he didn't have an answer for the question, so his campaign manager chimed in and gave me a campaign manager answer to that question. But this is the same strategy, is go out and just get endorsed by as many people as you can that are elected, and everybody else looks at it and says, wow, he's endorsed by tons of elected officials, so he must be okay. I'm going to vote for that guy. And that's the strategy for Baker.
There you go. Okay, so moving along to Joe Strada. We've already noted that he's kind of under the influence of the Connect 100, which includes the Lake County legislative delegation apparatus. He brought about $5 million of his own money to his campaign, so he certainly has enough money to take this very, very small window of opportunity to get his name out there. He's executing a fundamental campaign strategy in addition to capturing the endorsements of Lake County legislative delegation. And he has a business where his business trucks are on the road constantly, reinforcing the Strada name in just on the road. So is that a winning strategy, Mike?
That's how elections are won, right? I mean, I've always, you've heard me for years and years, right? I mean, elections are won by postcards and mailboxes. And my colleagues who live in District 11 are telling me they've already gotten 3 postcards in the mail from Joe Strada. So I would say that that's, honestly, whether I interviewed, I was in the room yesterday morning, when the Republican assemblies of Lake and Sumter County interviewed Joe Strada. And, Joe Strada's a guy he's an air conditioning guy who built an AC electrical plumbing business. He's built a big business, and he's a down-to-earth guy. I think he's probably the least political of all the candidates in the race. Chuck?
Yeah. So least political. Exactly how do you feel that works for him? Or is that something that the average voter out here could actually assimilate based on postcards?
Well, unfortunately, they're not going to know that.
Yeah.
Unless we had 1 million people watching our broadcast, right? We'll never know. But unfortunately, sadly, our broadcast doesn't enjoy, that level of viewership. So what we're saying right now probably is not going to have a huge impact on the election. But I think that voters are just not going to know that, I speculate as to how Joe Strada got onto this into this race in the first place, but I would imagine it probably happened through his Connect 100 alliances. And then people, he probably mentioned in a meeting that he might consider running. And then, of course, the David Jordan wing of the party doesn't want Carey Baker elected. So they said, oh, here's our guy. This is our horse. And, he's got the will to do it. He's got the resources to do it. So why don't we get behind him? And this is how we take out Carey Baker. And I think that's pure speculation, by the way. But, again, I was in the room with him for an hour or so Monday morning. He seemed like just like Tim Wilkins is a great guy. Carey Baker's a great guy. I'm sure Nizam Razak is a great guy. He just doesn't profile the way Republican Assembly people want for their congressmen. So all the people in the race I don't begrudge any of them. I was in the presence of Nizam Razak, and he seems to be a nice guy. But I'm just telling you, I have a personal commitment to myself that if you're not naturally born citizen of the United States, I'll never vote for you in Congress, period. End of story. So that's enough for me. Only one candidate is going to win this race. And I don't want a candidate who is not a naturally born citizen of the United States being a congressman. That's where we are.
Yeah.
Or to close out the conversation with Strada, I think that he was kind of people saw him as a viable candidate and encouraged him and got behind him, and I think he's got a pretty good shot at winning. Of course, we won't know. I think really, to be honest with you, I think that Razak is the one who really has very little chance of winning. But I think between Wilkins and Baker and Strada, I think it's going to be a horse race, Chuck.
Yeah. Well, again, regarding Razak, you cannot be a good Muslim and pledge allegiance to the Constitution of the United States. You can't. You have to be lying to somebody. Simple as that. So,
okay. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That Chuck Benoit just had a pretty powerful statement right there.
Yeah, there you go. Well, that's the bottom line. I mean, it is antithetical to be a Muslim and support the Constitution. That goes for every other Muslim that's been elected into their offices as well. They're lying to somebody. And
Fair enough.
And Islam allows them to lie to those of us who are not Muslim. So that's kind of that. Okay, so we are out of time. So Mike, I'm going to give you the floor. Yeah. Bring us home, Mike.
Well, to be honest, I think, as I just said before, I think we have great candidates in the CD11 race. I think really, and just I've already said my piece about being a naturally born citizen, so I'm going to rule that out as if Mr. Razak is not in. I don't think he's going to win. But I'm going to say to you that whether Carey Baker wins the race or Wilkins or Strada, I think that any one of those three outcomes, we're going to have a really strong congressman. So I'm going to withhold, my personal preference in this race. But I think that CD11 is going to get great representation in Congress, whether no matter which one of these, provided one of these three people win, Strada, Baker, or Wilkins, CD11 is in store for some pretty heavy-duty, solid representation in Congress, Chuck.
Great. Well, thank you, Mike Levine, and thank you all for tuning into our twice-weekly live stream. Please follow us on Facebook and X at RestoreOurRep76. Check us out on YouTube at Restoring Our American Republic-ROAR. Please like and share the program, and remember, if you are unwilling to govern yourself, you will be governed by tyrants. Until next time, God bless you, God bless President Donald J. Trump, and God bless America.